Cheers, everybody. Welcome to
Hey,
Happy
everybody.
Hour. How's everybody doing?
I often wonder how many people are really here right at the top of this thing. I mean, people, join us as we go along, but
We're just
you know,
talking to ourselves. It's like
Somebody,
we're
surely somebody sees us wave.
well, we
somebody.
promote it a little bit, don't we?
Yeah.
If
We promote it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Heather
yeah,
does. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm having some technical issues, so I have to wear my headphones. But that's a joy because I think it makes my hair look amazing. So I'm really looking forward to
I
that
got to
and
be
using
honest, those
that.
headphones get lost in that hair.
Oh my God. No kidding. Like, look, seriously.
I
I
have
had the I had the best comment about my hair. I posted a photo of Tony and I when we were at a meeting in Vegas last Sunday, and somebody said, "Don't take this the wrong way, but you look like Brett Spiner's character in Independence Day." So I'll remind you that Brett Spiner plays Data on Star Trek, but in the movie Independence Day with Will Smith and Bill Pullman, I believe,
yes.
he plays kind of a wacky UFO alien chasing dude who lives in an RV in the desert. Am I remembering that
Yeah.
correctly, Lamar?
Yeah. Yep.
Listen, listen. I am a Trekkie and an alien lover, so I did take that. I did not take that the wrong way. I absolutely took it as a compliment. But yeah, yeah, I know a lot of women would not have heard it that way. Let's say hi to some folks. Hi, Renee Goodspeed up there in Wake Forest, and Jane Stevens. Meredith Miller is in beautiful Fort Myers. We're coming your way, girl, with
Hey,
all of our teacher winners.
Jim.
Have you ever noticed that when somebody says, "Now, don't take this the wrong way," it ain't going to be good,
Well, because
and
they
you
know,
are going to take it the
yeah.
wrong way.
Yep. There ain't
Well,
but one way to take it.
There's only
because
one way.
they know that there's a chance that it is, in fact, the wrong way. Oh, I forgot to turn some lights on. Hang on. Talk amongst
And
yourselves.
if somebody says, "Can we talk?" Go out the door.
Oh,
Just
yeah. Yeah.
leave. Do not have anything to do with it. Say it's not going to be good for me. I don't need to be there. Those setups that we all use. Can I have a moment with you? Oh, whatever they are. Like after a meeting, Bob, can I speak to you privately?
Can you stay behind, Bob? Can you wait? Yeah. When everybody else,
Yeah, exactly. Actually, Sherry and I, after a meeting, have never been asked to stay behind.
Not ever.
We've been asked to go to the parking lot.
Just y'all go ahead and you two can go is what we usually get at these meetings.
And that reminds me, I just came up with a fantastic new Bob and Sherry feature I would like to announce.
okay.
So I'm going to run it by you, and if you like it, like maybe in a week or something like that, we could do it. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
And so it would be mostly you and me, but Lamar too, and a little bit of Max because he's in the studio and doesn't go out and sees the public as much as we do. Bob and Sherry's most humiliating moments in radio.
Ooh.
Oh,
So we're going to do this 7-8 times a day in order to get them all in before the sun dies. We're going to have to really
I knew you were
strategize
going to
this.
say that. I knew you were going to say that. So I figure we do it as an oddcast, right? And then we take pieces from the oddcast and we play it on the regular show in like little vignette things. So I don't want to
Okay.
give away all of them. I'll do one that's not that humiliating, but it's
Okay.
kind of insulting. So
Okay.
we had a station. We have several stations, I think, in West Virginia, and which is a state that we love very much. It's very beautiful. And there was a guy there. Well, there are actually two in West Virginia. The first guy was an older guy, and he had absolutely no idea who we were. I don't think he knew who he was, but he kept calling Sherry Shari. So we'd be at an appearance. We're very glad everybody's here at the opening of Pizza World, and we have with us our morning show, Bob and Shari. And I took this asshole aside and I said, "It's Sherry." Right, right. And he did it again. And to
Yeah.
this day, I don't know if it was totally on purpose or he's just a numbnuts. I
maybe he's
I
not
don't
hearing
know.
it right too. Maybe he's not hearing it right too.
Not
You
hearing
know,
it right? What do you mean?
Well, sometimes people can't hear it correctly.
like he might have like a hearing,
Yeah. Listen, my
disorder
dad,
or
my
processing.
my sister-in-law, Troy's wife, her name was Dale. Okay, her name was Dale.
Right.
But my father, he had his. So I need to save this for the podcast. But his sister-in-law had poured hot oil down his ear because he had an earache, and it destroyed his eardrum. Okay, see, this is why peeing on the Q-tip is safer.
Yeah.
Hot oil, no
Thank
good.
you.
Nobody
Thank you,
loses
Lamar.
an eardrum over pee in the Q-tip. But anyway, so he lost that, and then he didn't have a whole lot of hearing in the other ear, so he wore a hearing aid. So my sister-in-law's name was Dale, and I had a cousin named Dale, and for all his entire life, he called him Nail. That's how he heard it. He called him Nail. It's, hey Nail, how you doing?
Yeah, it might be a processing or a hearing thing. Um,
How have we not had this one on the air? Let's just back up for a minute, my friend. Let's just back up to the hot oil in the ear, because I got to know more about that.
Listen, my mom, when we were little, my mom thought that was the way to go. And my grandma Whitehair would be like, no, 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 first urine of the morning. And my mother would say, this is not the old country. We're not doing that. So we're lucky that it didn't end up worse for us than it did.
I had a lot of urine in my ear, but I still got eardrums. Okay. You know, when you're pouring, warm oil probably does help you, but you can't have it scalding hot. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Go to a doctor. Go to an ear, nose, and throat doctor. Do not pour. What is this? Like medieval torture?
Listen, some of us had parents that didn't take us to the doctor. Like my parents, I don't remember the entire time I lived in Wyoming. I don't remember going to a doctor, not one time. And I got chased and attacked by a dog. The dog pulled me all the way down to the ground and was tearing my leg apart when my mom was always rescuing me. She was such a badass mom. My mom came running like Jackie Joyner Kersey down the gravel road and punched this dog in its face to get the dog off of me. I had like a silver dollar sized opening in my leg. I have a scar to this day because she dragged me home and said to my father, we need to go get stitches. Now, stitches was 30 miles away in each direction. So it was a 60-mile round trip and would have cost something. And my father was like, she's fine. Put some mercurochrome on it, some hydrogen peroxide. She's good. And it was a big, nasty wound that, like I never went to the doctor, not one time my entire childhood out west. So peeing in somebody's ear and hot oil.
No, somebody, one of our listeners, God bless them, said a little bit of olive oil that's warm. Okay. All right. I'm not going to argue with there. Hot oil is like something that when you were in a medieval castle and they were attacking you, you would take vats of hot oil and pour it on them and kill them.
Common sense would have said when she took the pan of oil off of the stove, she would put her finger in it. And if it didn't burn her finger, but she thought it was okay, so she just poured it on down there and that was it.
Y'all, we're about to be lapped so hard by Jean Cole. She says, my parents never took us to a doctor. One time I sprained my ankle and my dad had me flush it in the toilet. It was like a cool whirlpool.
God, I love that ingenuity. I love that ingenuity. Because it does.
That is amazing.
Let me see how you like this, because I know you're hardcore. You're always sticking up for the hardcore stuff, Lamar. I've noticed that. So I'm let me see, how old was I? About 11 maybe. And I've got a bad ingrown toenail on my big toe. Bad. It hurts. And so my mother took me to the local doctor, Dr. Wilson, and there was going to be an extra charge for Novocaine. And we turned that down. And Dr. Wilson cut right in there. That was, until I got the shingles, like a million years later, that was the worst pain I ever experienced.
You know what, Bob? I am so sorry that happened to you. And I'm so sorry that my grandma Blackhair wasn't there to pull a hard wrapped butterscotch candy out of her brassiere and tell you, does this hurt, Bobby? Now try having a baby. That would have just been
I
so
know. I
comforting for
know.
you.
I know.
Listen,
Would have been so
I've
good.
had more ingrown toenails, we're not even. Everybody that listens to this show knows you get an Irish potato, you scrape it, put the potato on the ingrown toenail, you wrap it up in cotton wrap, and and then sleep overnight, and the potato pulls the soreness out. Potato turns completely black. There's no soreness, and then you can whip out the scissors and the knife and screwdriver and whatever you got to do and get it. Yes, I've
I
done.
am not using a screwdriver on my toe.
My
That
mom did this so many. I mean, I've done it. I have done it my own self. It's been a long, long time, but I mean, yeah. The starch in the potato pulls the soreness out, and when you open it up the next day, the potato is completely black, and the toenail is still there, but the soreness is gone. So then you can get in there and cut it out.
I
The
don't want to.
only
I don't want to get in anywhere and cut anything out.
the
I
only
don't.
thing that my people would use a potato for, there were certain things, but you had to bury the potato in under a full moon, and
Yeah.
then the potato would pull the infection or the sickness or whatever out of
Well, now
you
you're making
using the
sense.
using the power of the
Yeah.
moon. I thought everybody
Right.
knew that you harnessed
Yeah.
the moon.
Now you're making
There you
sense.
go.
Now
My
you're
mama,
making
my
sense.
mama had an uncle that could talk warts off, and part of what he would do is he would take a dish rag and he would talk the warts, and then he would rub the dish rag over the warts, and he would dig a hole and he would bury the dish rag and cover
Yeah.
it up. And once the full moon came and went, warts are gone.
You know what? We sound like
It is.
lunatics, but look,
Yeah.
we're all here. Here
I
we
mean,
are.
I
That's
got
what
no.
our parents would say. You're fine. Look at you. Look at you. You turned out great.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I see Bob does not comprehend the struggle of poor people from Billy Privet. Billy, honey, I answered the door when the sheriff said, "Get out of our house."
Yeah.
So I love you, darling.
Well, you never had your parents weren't they weren't country people and they weren't from the old country. So that's why, you might not have ever been taken to the doctor and your parents didn't have jack. I mean, Bob's parents, Bob he moved 1,000 times. They were broke, but your parents believed in science and medicine. Now, you didn't get to take advantage of any science or medicine,
But they
but
knew
they
about it.
believed in it. Yeah.
Yeah, they
Whereas
knew about it.
whereas my people were like, we know we've heard of this science and medicine, but the old ways are still the best ways. And I think that's true for Lamar. The country ways are still the best
Yeah.
ways.
Well, let me ask you, Shari, don't you think that would be a good feature?
Oh, it would be a
Bob
very
and
good
Sheri's
feature.
most humiliating moments in radio.
My favorite radio moment was not humiliating for me so much as it was a giant, what the did I just hear? Williamsport, we're having lunch with all and it's always men. It's just, I'm always the only girl in the room. It's a table
Williamsport,
full of
Pennsylvania.
Williamsport, Pennsylvania, home of the Little League World Series. As per usual, the only woman in the room. And we're chit chatting and whatever. And one of the I guess it was the sales manager, interrupted the conversation to say, Sherry, let me guess your weight. Like we were at the county fair.
Right.
Now, this was before I was married. This was before I had kids. And I looked at the guy like, did I just hear that? Like, did you just, I must have not heard that correctly. And Bob was like, I'm sorry, what? And he went all in and started trying to guess my weight, which I couldn't let him win the blueberry pie because I don't weigh myself and I didn't even know my weight. But I thought it was such an Heather, such an unbelievably, I don't even know what the word. I don't think rude is the word. I don't think insane is the word. Offensive and inappropriate are close, but I'm not sure there's a word for what that guy did that day at that
Yeah.
meeting.
I don't even know what the male equivalent of that is. I mean, that is a misogynistic thing to do, and he was trying to control the room because you were a power figure in that station, and he did not know what to do with a woman who was a powerful person and a popular person, not just power, but popular, because they would see all these people coming out to greet us, and it was just so wonderful for us and humbling. But a lot of them would want, especially women, who would want to talk to Sheri privately. So I think that asshole saw that and went that way because it was the
Yeah.
only way that he could think at that moment to try to take some power away from you. And I don't know, what is the male version
There
of,
isn't one.
that.
There
There
isn't
is,
one.
you really don't think there's one?
I could not lean down the table and say, Dwayne, just between us, you're what, about 55? Can you still get it up? Like there's no male equivalent.
That's
You
true.
should have,
That's as
what
close as you could get. To go
what,
right there for the crotch is as close as you could get. You're
And
right.
I never would. I can tell you that there are two sets of rules. And I just went through this just a few days ago at an industry thing. There are two sets of rules. And my rules are I can be silent and smiling, or I can be sweet and deferential, or I can be an arrogant bitch. Like these are my only choices. And so most of the time I'm smiling and nodding and just being like, oh my God, did you just say that to me? Now, Mama was a little ragged, a little bit tired, and did not do such a good job with that a few days ago of just smiling and going, "Oh yeah, I heard that." But it's very different when you're a woman in such a hyper male dominated industry. And even if I looked at you and thought, I bet his wanker doesn't really get the wood anymore, I would never say it. Like I would never say it. I wouldn't ask you about, hey, how's your dick? I would never, ever, ever do that. You know why? Because it's rude and inappropriate and you
Right.
risk hurting somebody's feelings. I'm a social
Exactly.
worker. I'm here to
Exactly.
help, right? Yeah, there's
All
no
right.
male
So,
equivalent.
all right. So I'm going to put this aside. Do you agree that this would be a good feature?
Yeah.
All right. So maybe,
different speed break, you can do the most proud moments. 'Cause
yeah, there you go.
that would take
Yeah,
quite
something
a
shorter. So how was Las Vegas? Nothing, not, you were there for the National Association of
hmm
Broadcasters. You were
Yeah.
speaking. So what were
Well,
some fun things, interesting things that
so
you experienced with your work or in Vegas?
so I'll say this, the plan, like Kevin decided that he would drive across country because my mom really wanted to see him and he really wanted to see my mom. The two of them have quite a friendship. So he got out there and the plan was he'll take me to Vegas Saturday night for work and he'll stay overnight with me in Vegas and then he'll get back on the road the next day. And I warned Kevin, I'm like, my husband has raging ADHD and Vegas is too much. It's so overstimulating.
Yeah.
It's overstimulating for a boot, much less a person with ADHD.
Hmm.
And I know my husband, I knew he wouldn't be able to handle it. And we were staying at the Bellagio because that's the NAB's hotel for this convention. And if you've never been to the Bellagio, the distance from the front door to your room, and
Uh,
I know this because I have a tracker. The distance from the front door to your room could be as much as a half a mile. Now, I know you're thinking that is a lie, but it is not a lie because Bellagio is huge. There's one set of rooms over here called the Spa Tower, and then there's another set of rooms through the casino gaming floor. And I warned him with his bad leg, this is going to be awful. But until you experience it, you don't know. So just getting him from the front door to the room, he was sideways. It's crowded 24/7. And I forgot to mention this because I didn't even think about it. You're allowed to smoke in Las Vegas inside the hotels and gaming floor.
Still? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so
Really?
he was like, people are smoking? I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. You're allowed to do that here. They want you traveling through the casino floor to get to your room.
yes.
And I'm talking, you go by blackjack and craps and roulette and baccarat and slots and high limit slots and poker and electronic poker and
Yeah.
bar after bar after bar after bar before you finally get to the elevators and kick it up to your room. That wore him out.
Yeah.
All of the blinking and beeping and flashing and all of the people, he could not get out of there fast enough. He got up the next morning, got dressed, waved at me, and left. He left his pillows, which I had to somehow get into my carry-on and bring because he travels with his pillows like all men. And I had
Yes.
to somehow get those into my carry-on and get them back on the plane. So he was not having it. And I thought there's great people watching, and the Sphere, if you watch the Super Bowl, you know the Sphere is awesome. At night, the Sphere does all different things when it's not like the Super
Yeah.
Bowl. But at night, they had the Sphere rotated through its tricks, and one of them was an incredibly lifelike moon. So you are walking down the strip or looking out the window of your hotel, and there is a giant glowing freaking moon, complete with craters and oh, it's just the coolest.
That's very
So
impressive. Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
really fun. I a little bit of Vegas goes a long way for
Yeah.
me because I'm not a gambler, and I never because I'm always there just for work or coming passing in and out to get to my mom. I never experience anything. But before I caught my flight home, and I got and it was crazy. Like I had to sleep on the plane. But before I caught my flight home, Tony and I parted. He went in one direction, I went in the other. And I walked down the strip and crossed the street as the Bellagio's fountain show was beginning, which is something I've never gotten to really see as many times as I've been there. You can say it's corny, you can say a
No.
million things. It's a hoot. It is so, so, so entertaining. Um, so that was like the Vegas part of it. And I love the people watching and all of that. The NAB, everything is AI. AI, because the NAB, by the way, is not just radio, it's television. It's like all your broadcast media. And people come from all around the world to go to the NAB. It's not just like a handful of American radio and television stations. And I started seeing this happen a few years ago where it was like AI cameras for television studios and AI switching technology, AI everywhere. So that's super interesting because they have all of this technology on the convention floor, and so you can kind of watch it in action and play with it as long as you can stand being pinned down for a sales speech. And then the other thing they have at the Las Vegas Convention Center that's really cool that Tony and I did last time, but not this time. The LA Convention Center, Bob, is so huge that there are tunnels that run underneath it. And it's called the Tesla Loop. You can get in a Tesla and go shooting underneath the Vegas Convention Center in this neon glowing tube, like something from Star Trek. And then they bring you to the other end so that,
That's
you
pretty.
can get back and forth quicker. So that's interesting. Yeah, it was,
That
I
makes me
mean,
sick. I mean, that just seems to be such an over the top, hey, look at me sort of thing that actually does nothing for the radio industry. I hate the idea that the most talked about thing was AI, because basically what that is, we're never going to be replaced by AI because of the type of show we do. But I do worry about some of our brethren. Um, the idea, I don't know. The last time I was in Las Vegas, I was 23 years old and I never wanted to go back. And I know my friend Jeff, who's probably watching this right now, is always asking me to go to Vegas because, oh, the shows and the steakhouses. And I know that's great. And the place to see Rod Stewart right now is in Las Vegas because the acoustics are perfect. It's a great presentation for
well,
a certain type of person. That person is just not me.
so, but can I tell you, Vegas, Vegas is now where you go to see like a band that you love that is no longer touring. And I'm going to give you a great example. Michael Fisher, you guys know Michael Fisher because he built the Bob and Sheri app. He's doing something else now, but we love Michael. He went to see the B-52s are in residence at the Venetian,
Yeah.
and he went to the show and I was like, well, how was it? And he said, I was blown away. The vocals were flawless. The stage, everything about it was amazing because the artists have so much more control over the environment and they're not exhausted from living in a bus.
I
So
And
get
you've
that.
got
Yeah.
you've got the B-52s and Shania Twain and I mean you've got all Adele, of course. You have all these amazing artists that you can now go see. And Tony's a hoot because he lives in Denver, so he's close to Vegas and he goes back and forth to like he and Donna will go spend a weekend and they'll go see like Donny Osmond or whatever, just like for fun because life is short and you might as well live and have adventures. Last year, he went to see Barry Manilow. And you can joke and roll your eyes all you want, but Barry Manilow apparently puts on a show and a
Everybody says
half.
it's a
He's
great.
also Barry Manilow, I will say, was one of the nicest people and most interesting guests that we have ever had on the show.
Oh, yeah,
You
absolutely.
remember when we had Barry on?
Yeah. I was
He
so intimidated
Yeah,
to interview Barry freaking Manilow, and
he was so much
he was
fun. He was
amazing.
so
He
much
was
fun. I
amazing.
get it. I'm in the minority. I want to go look at lighthouses and eat a lobster roll and, go out in my garden and all of that. But I've just never had the draw. And I just have to be honest, and I don't think I'm the only one. I think it's not really strange, but sort of interesting that rock acts that used to just turn their backs on anything commercial when they were at their hottest, all of a sudden they're saying, "Oh, it's not that commercial. It's lovely to be there. We're taken care of." That's called selling out to a certain
That
degree.
Bob, that is not how I see it. Here's how I see it. Um, I can't imagine what it's like to be like any kind of a rock star. I can't even sing Happy Birthday. But I think that the joy of making music and performing music must be the greatest drug there ever was. But people do reach a point for a gazillion reasons where,
Right.
they don't want to be on the road. And yet they still, Carrie Underwood's doing a Vegas residency. I don't know if it's started yet. I saw the
No,
ads for it.
no, it is. Carla went to see it last year, and
Okay, yeah, it's amazing, right?
she loved it.
So they can't do the road life. They have small children or they're just freaking older and tired. Like I don't know how old the B-52s are, but they've been around since I was like my
They
big
have to be
brother
in their
was into them.
70s. Well,
Yeah, like they
well, the lead singer, I forget her name,
Fred
the girl lead singer. She was one of our listeners in Hudson, New York.
in upstate New York, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that it's not about for me, and maybe I'm just a cockeyed optimist, but it's not about selling out so much as it is, damn, this thing that we love to do, if only there was a way we could do it. And Vegas lets them do that. And I think also, let me say, as a concert goer, the tickets, unless you're going to see like Adele, right,
Yeah.
in the front row, this they're really affordable. And you're having a great time. You're there, you are at the B-52s or at Carrie Underwood or whatever. Then you walk out onto the strip and there's a million things to see and do. I get it. Like, I'm not a gambler, but I totally get it. And I don't
I
feel
understand
like
what
it's
you're
a
saying.
sellout.
I understand, and there could be people. One of many of our listeners who they're. I'm looking at their comments right now, and some are saying, "Go, Bob! I agree, Bob." Blah blah blah, and there are others that are saying, "You're a stick in the mud, and it's just music to hear." I
You know
do
what
have
it is? It's not you
this.
being a stick in the mud. You are that you are in that layer of rock and roll purists that were pissed off when Visa started sponsoring the Rolling Stones. When corporate money got into touring,
Yeah.
that pissed your tribe off, and you've never quite let go of it. You want rock and roll to be pure, and you want it to be this rebellious kind of an art form. So I don't think it's so much being a stick in the mud as it is being a disappointed idealist.
Well, that may be the case, but the other thing is, I hear what you're saying. Oh, we just want to do our craft and not be tired, and it's so hard. Now, what you want is a lot of money.
And
Well,
I mean,
I
that's what
mean,
they got into it for. That's
like,
what.
don't be
No,
such a
not all of
hypocrite.
them.
Like
Not
you
everybody got into
wouldn't.
that for just the money. I hear what you're saying. The money, I'm sure, was wonderful for all of the big rock stars, but a lot, out of my era at least, a lot of it was just the love of the music and the love of what Chuck Berry created.
See, I'm Gen X. I raised myself. I tied off my own wounds with a dirty bandana, and I have never thought for 1 minute that anybody was doing anything without getting paid. And I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah,
And I,
you're paid.
and by the way, you're going to have a better seat and a better acoustic experience seeing the B-52s at the Venetian than you are seeing the B-52s at the Muncie Fairground.
No, you're exactly right, and I'll give you that example. And hello, Jeff Fox. If he and his wife love Vegas, they live in Palm Springs, and but even when they lived on the East Coast, they would go to Vegas. He said to see Rod Stewart perform in this theater, and I don't know which hotel it was, but one of the theaters in Las Vegas is so amazing, and you feel so connected to him because the acoustics are perfect, perfect. And when he talks about the guy who's adjusting the microphone in the middle of one of the sets, and he says, "Tommy, how long have you been with me?" 40 years, and it's an interesting sort of more intimate thing. I think that is very, very
And
cool.
you're not in a stadium. You're in a
Yeah.
place
Right.
where you can see them. You don't need the jumbotron. Even if you've got seats in the back, you
Right.
can see them. I mean, it's a
I
connection.
agree with you. I actually, as a non-Vegas aficionado, I'd rather see an act in Vegas than be 80 seats back in some football stadium looking at the big screen. I don't want that.
And I get, like Crystal Bianco said, my issue is with the costs. So, truly, Crystal, I've been to Vegas a million times. I've never once been where it wasn't for work or because that's the airport closest to my mom. I've never been to Vegas like as a tourist or as a person on vacation. So, and it is expensive. The parking's expensive, restaurants are expensive. If you want to now I'm going to give y'all a great vacation idea, dirt cheap, if you like to gamble. So, the last outpost in Nevada before you cross into Utah, and Utah is not where you go to enjoy your vices. Okay. Like no one goes to Utah going, I'm going to get filthy in the beehive state. Like nobody. There is a little, it's not a little town anymore. It's a pretty big town and it's delightful called Mesquite, right on the, right at the, like, no, it goes Nevada, Arizona, Utah. It's a weird kind of, if you look at the map, it's a weird kind of geography thing.
Right.
Mesquite has a couple of casinos. One of them is called the Casablanca. And let me tell you something. A couple years ago, I got in really late on a flight and did not want to show up at my mom's house at 2 o'clock in the morning because she doesn't sleep well as it is. And I had my daughter and my niece Britt with me. And we rented a car in Vegas at the airport and we drove to Mesquite and we stayed in a suite at the Casablanca for $24.99. It was the best $25 anybody has ever sent. It was so ring a ding ding. And people, it's a casino. There's gambling, and then there are like golf courses, and there's shopping. So you can, if you're into that whole gambling situation, you can definitely have yourself that experience for a lot less. Now, the B-52s and Adele are not playing the Casablanca in Mesquite, but like Toad the Wet Sprocket might be. There are some things you can go and do. It's so fun. It really is. It's so fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah. So, did you go to one of these really ring-a-ding-ding steakhouses or anything like that? That's what Jeff is always pushing me to go. Oh, the steaks are unbelievable at the steakhouses.
Tony actually made reservations at a pretty ring-a-ding-ding place in North Las Vegas because it was closer to the event we were doing that day.
Uh-huh.
And it was very much like red leather booths, giant menus. The servers were all 1,000 years old and had been doing this job forever and ever and ever.
Yes. Yeah.
And that was, I mean, that was the vibe. And then I think we went to Giada's restaurant, which is right across from Caesars and the Bellagio on the Strip, the second night for dinner. But they're, like your idea of old Las Vegas, like Fremont Street, the neon rhinestone
Right.
cowboy thing,
Right.
that doesn't exist anymore like you're imagining it. The entire thing is covered over and roofed, sort of like a shopping arcade. So
And
you
a
don't,
light show going the whole
yeah, with a light show. So if you're going, that was the other thing that disappointed Kevin, I think. He had an idea in his head about what Las Vegas was, and the reality didn't quite match the idea.
So he thought
Um,
that it was going to be more like that scene in, I don't remember which James Bond movie, but it was one of the movies where James Bond is in Las Vegas.
Casino Royale, that couldn't be it, right? That's too
No, it
obvious, isn't
wasn't.
it? No.
I can't. I think it was Diamonds Are Forever. It was one of the early ones, or the original Ocean's 11. That's
Yeah.
probably a better example with Sinatra
Yeah.
and his friends at Ocean's 11.
I had
It's
went. Carla and I had went every year for a while, and then
Uh-huh.
we stopped. Now she kept going where she was working. They would go out for shows and whatever. So I didn't go for years. So I went from the last time I went to Vegas. You could go all the way down to the stratosphere and walk the sidewalk all the way up to the MGM. You know, and what I used to do when I would go is one day I would just make a day of walking all the way up and going in and out each casino. So
Yeah.
I hadn't been there in a few years. So I roll up there with Carla. I guess it was last year we went. Might have been year before last. We roll up in there. There is no side. No, everything is
There's no
no,
sidewalk. You
well.
can't do
it's
that.
it's
You
not what you're picturing at
not a
all.
walking
Oh, okay.
Vegas.
Rick
Yeah,
Sullivan just said diamonds are forever. I
diamonds
was
are
right.
forever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was the James
you
movie.
used to walk Vegas, but you cannot walk Vegas anymore.
No,
You just can't do
no, not without getting run over. It's really challenging.
it. It is.
It's really because that's what that. So Tony and I, we've been in our trips there. We always try to do at least one fun thing. We've been to the Mob Museum, which Charlotte Belka is recommending. The Mob Museum is a blast. The Neon Museum, the Neon Graveyard,
I'd like to
where
see
they
that.
have it is absolutely a joy. It is so fun to walk through, and it's self-guided, and you can spend as much time as you want,
I'd
look
like
at
to
whatever
see
you want to
that.
do.
Yeah. Hmm.
So there are, you know, it's not the Vegas like that you've seen in old movies, but
Yeah.
it's also not um like for a while there they were trying to sell Vegas as a destination for the whole family, and now they are
That
right
didn't
back
work.
to
No.
debauchery. So here's an example of what I mean by debauchery, and Kevin was blown away. So we make the half mile plus trek to room 1415 at the Bellagio, and he's looking around, and it's like Vegas fabulous, giant shower and everything's great. The mini bar is stocked with spirits, wine, beer, nuts, snacks, vibrators, condoms, sex toys, like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Kev's like, did you know this was here? I'm like, yeah, it's all, I don't know if it's everywhere, but every time I've stayed at the Bellagio, I found it. And they're sealed. So if you want to see what's inside, you gotta buy it and break the seal.
Yep.
And that's all I'm gonna say about that because
I
I
stayed at the
came back.
Renaissance Inn in Charlotte not that long ago, and there were no
Tony's mad
vibrators for
about the big
sale.
orange juice.
Yeah.
I know he's not happy with that.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I got I got back to the hotel. Tony and I had this event to do, and then we went and grabbed some dinner, and Kev didn't want to leave the hotel and join us, so it was just the two of us. I get back to the hotel, and Kev throws me, he said, look at this. And he throws me this squishy thing about the size and shape of a chicken's egg. And I'm like, what is this? And he said, what do you think it is? And I'm like, a hat for a gnome? Like I couldn't, like I'm like, well, I'm not going to tell y'all what it was, but I think
Oh, I
you
think we
know
know.
what it was. And I was like, men use that? Like, really?
What happens in Vegas?
I
Yeah.
guess I don't know what it is. I thought it was something else.
No, let me just say that it is a thing, a little like hat for a man who wants to have an assist.
Are you following this, Lamar?
Oh,
No.
he is, Bob. Yeah.
No, I'm not. No, I'm
Oh,
not.
he knows exactly what it is. Yeah, he does. He does. You see what I mean about how pure you are? You don't know
Yeah.
what this is. What the hell am I going to do with you at a Vegas residency? Yeah.
Well, you can't get that in Old Lyme, Connecticut. I can tell you
No,
that
sir, you
right now.
cannot. No,
Not
you cannot.
whatever that is.
And
That's
I
not
know
available.
your flinty New Englanders, if you could get it in Old Lyme, Connecticut, they would make it out of like suede, and you would need an ice pack afterward. Let me just say that. Yeah.
Can I? Jeff, my friend Jeff watches this once in a while. He watches it sometimes the next day, but whatever. So
Jeffrey Ward, he'll
he and
know.
I, two East Coast guys,
Jim. This is for
And-
Jim.
and we're both in our early 20s, right? And I had what's that?
McAllen, Scotch.
Jim,
Oh, nice.
he always wants to know what I'm drinking, and I was just showing it.
Oh
to him.
yeah, cheers, very good.
Mm.
And so he was working in Phoenix, and the job went south, And so he was depressed. So I flew out there. We got in his Toyota Corolla, and we drove. We didn't know where we were going, and we drove through Mexico and had no idea where we were going, and ended up in San Diego, and then went up through the Pacific Coast Highway. And it was one of the most wonderful experiences for the two of us, and we still talk about it this day. I have these old pictures of me for the first time on a beach. It was Malibu in California, and I had dreamt about it all my life, to be able to see the California coast. And it was everything I thought it would be. Big Sur, I saw whales jumping, and we went through San Francisco, which was wonderful, and ended up in Las Vegas. And so I had never been in a gambling casino before. Obviously, I was 23 years old. And our rooms, by the way, at Caesars were $24 a night. And we split a room, so $14 each to stay there. And we went down to the casino. And I don't know how to play cards. He can play blackjack. But I said, let's go over to the crap table, because that's what you would see, like on, one of the ring-a-ding movies, Ocean's
Did you know
11.
how to play craps?
I got the basics, but what I did was I stayed on the cum line, and just bet
So
the
did
same
we.
thing. I knew you were going to do that. That's a term.
Let me
That's
tell
a
Kev, because
term.
he just
You're
came down.
That's when I think I haven't done it since then, but you're rolling with whoever has the dice.
Yeah.
Right.
I was
Am
telling
I right?
them about the little boxes in the rooms at the Bellagio and that
What
little
happened to my story?
squishy gnome hat.
Took it over.
Like,
And Bob doesn't know what it's for, and there's no way I can really graphically tell him on happy hour.
what do you mean? Oh, I can tell them.
No, you can't tell him. No, not. No one can. It can't be done. No.
If he can tell me that, I'll tell him what the cum line is in craps.
What is the cum line in craps? I wouldn't even dare to try to play craps.
You put your chips down on whoever is rolling. Isn't that right, Lamar? You're with the roller.
Yeah.
So it goes around the table. The dice go around the table, and the two of us are there, and we're dressed like a couple of just idiot not late life, but late era hippies. And the dice come around to Jeff. And he takes the dice, and there are all these people. Some of them, are real gamblers, and they're all like 3 times older than we are. And he's shaking the dice, and he's going with the dice. And I'm going, yeah, roll those bones, Jeff. And he's shaking the dice, and he throws it, and he threw it off the table.
God. So embarrassing.
But so you don't win when that happens? You're disqualified?
Oh, you don't win nothing.
You don't win?
They put down 2 more dice, and they go, try again, sir. Oh, I tell you what, I won $50 that night.
Hey, that's not nothing.
Are you kidding? I was dropping down $14 for a room. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Kev wanted to say something.
I just wanted to say that our household is kind of Island of Misfit Toys meets Ben or Willard. If you don't know about Ben or Willard,
Yeah, I got you. I got
about
you.
a bunch of rats. So I am the sheriff, because it turns out when you live in a house like that, you need the sheriff. I'm not the legend that Sherry talks about. I am also, and deservedly so, the prince of the Utah desert.
Oh, no question.
Do not deny that.
I told them about the situation with my mom and her feet.
Oh, man.
Kevin, pretty.
I still don't have anything to say about
Does
that.
she have
Kevin, I've heard the story about you and her mom and all of that, but I want to know, did you enjoy driving almost cross country by yourself?
Oh, I just lost him. Did I enjoy what?
Driving almost cross country by yourself.
Oh, Bob, we can't hear you.
Nobody can hear me?
I can't hear you.
I can hear you.
We can't hear you.
Lamar, can you?
I can hear you. Yes, I can.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I can't hear anybody now. Hang on. Hang on.
Oh, that's right. That's because Sherry has the headphones. So ask Kevin if he enjoyed driving cross country with
Got nothing.
by himself.
Oh, she can't even hear on the headphones.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, let's deal with that.
I'm gonna bounce.
Okay.
Listen, I got to give Kevin big time credit to drive across. I mean, especially with the whole eclipse thing. Mm. Now, my brother Looney drove to Missouri to watch the eclipse.
What did he say?
Missouri.
Did he enjoy it?
Yeah, he did.
What was it as powerful? Because we bought the glasses, here on the East Coast, and that was $20 I'll never see again. It was nothing. We were not on the coast, in that line.
It wasn't good as 2017. Oh, Kevin's back.
Can you hear me now?
Ask him now, Bob.
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear us?
Oh, yeah. Well, I also need to add that before I left, I was the king of I told you so. And you know what? I'm still the king of I told you so. Because on the day of the eclipse, the day that was going to be bumper to bumper and traffic that was just going to drive me up the wall, me and maybe 7 other people were traveling west on I-40 between the Mississippi River and New Mexico. Was the only one on the highway. I could actually see a mile ahead of me and a mile behind me and only see one car a lot of times.
That's pretty cool.
That
And
is
it
cool.
was very twilightish. So I felt real at home.
Carla and I were coming back from Emerald Isle, and so we stopped at Buc-ee's and looked at when it started, and you could tell it was going slow. So we got back in the car and we drove for a while, and every once in a while we'd pull over. And once it got to getting about 50%, we pulled over into a vacant restaurant on an exit. And so we're sitting there, and then a couple of more cars pull up. They don't have glasses, and they sort of walk over and, can we use your glass? So we do swap glasses with people and let them use them. And we watched it, but it was not near what it was in 2017 here. Now, Kevin, did you stop and watch it when it went full?
No, I was looking at totally like spookily abandoned highway in front of me and making time. I drove 1,000 miles that day. And not only was there zero traffic, but I stayed in a nice hotel at the inn, and there wasn't really an issue getting it. So,
Really?
if anybody, I'm here. If somebody still wants to get "I told you so" tattooed on their forehead, I'm here for them.
Tell about what happened with my mom and your junk and her feet.
Does Sherry's mom have attractive feet, Kevin? Are they attractive?
According to her gynecologist, she does. That's all I'm going to say about that. And, I can see it.
Check, please.
Yeah, exactly. I am, Sherry's going to put her spin on it as soon as I walk away. So I'll just let her down.
I told the story on the show.
Bury myself in the backyard.
Had a great visit.
So Kevin,
Wait, Bob has a question for you.
What's that?
While you're driving cross country, I've never done that, and I've always wanted to. Was there ever a moment in your mind where you said, "This is great, but I would love to be in like a vintage Corvette that's a convertible with my suitcase on the suitcase rack in the back of the vet"?
I drove a lot on the new Route 66, which is 4 lanes, speed limit 75, and
right.
So no, if I was driving on the old 66, the 2-lane
is that hard to find? Because I want to do that.
Parallel.
Some of it goes right beside the interstate.
It's parallel.
And wherever it is, they're proud of it. And it's pretty well marked.
Oh, is it still marked actually, like the old Route 66? I often wondered that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for big swaths of I-40 West, you're riding parallel to the old original Route 66. And you can get off of I-40 and ride on old 66. Like we do that to go through Winslow, Arizona, like in the Eagles song. The issue with it is that the road isn't really maintained.
Right.
It's not crap, but it's not Interstate 40.
Yeah. Right.
And for someone like Kevin that wants to drive 1,000 miles in a day, he wants to be on a proper highway going really fast.
The old Route 66,
you would love it.
like South Carolina roads. That's that what you're telling me? Like our roads?
A little bit, yeah. Like because I know I spend a lot of time near where you and
Yeah.
Carla live. So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah.
But it's super cool, and there are people we see them because my family's out there. We're back and forth at least once a year, and there are people who that is their vacation. They map out a trip on Route 66,
I would do
and
that.
yeah, it's fun. Listen, it's fun. We every once in a while we'll jump off I-40 and take old Route 66 for an hour or two because it takes you through towns that you don't see on I-40. And let me just say, when you go on the old original Route 66, you see a lost America.
Yeah.
You really do. The architecture, these little towns that used to be like just booming are shrunken because the interstate, passed them by. But it's very much if you're into like Americana, you would love it, Bob. It's a really cool thing to do.
I mean, I even know the lyrics to the song. You go through St. Louis, Joplin, Missouri, Oklahoma City looks oh so pretty. You'll see Amarillo, Joplin, New Mexico.
I've
Blah,
got
blah, blah.
I've got a nephew from first marriage, and he owns a body shop, and so he went and bought a van. He outfitted it with a bed. He had captain's chairs that turn. I mean, he fixed it like you could camp in it, sort of like what
Yeah.
y'all do in Kevin's truck, Sheri. But he
Yeah.
fixed everything. And his vacation last summer is he went from here to California on 66. That's what he did. He sent pictures back and stuff. I mean, he did the whole deal. He was
I'd
determined
love
to
that.
do it. And he spent about 10
It's
days doing it.
it's fun. Like when we first went to Winslow, Arizona, so that we could take a picture standing on the corner of Winslow, Arizona. Such a fine sight to see, right? It's very
Right.
touristy, but that's the only touristy section of Winslow. There are, you're driving by like these motels that just scream post World War II,
Right.
1950s golden era American dream.
Exactly.
And there's so much to see. And the Cadillac Ranch is on old Route 66, and at that point it's in Amarillo, and it runs old Route 66 is running parallel to I-40 in that part of Texas. And so you can take a little exit, and there's the Cadillac Ranch. It doesn't cost anything to go. There's a truck. It looks kind of like an ice cream truck that's parked at the entrance to the Cadillac Ranch if you want to buy some spray paint, because the whole deal is you can paint the Cadillacs. You can add your name or graffiti or whatever.
It's cool.
And then you take a good long walk into this field under the most enormous sky. And there they are, one right after another, these old Cadillacs that are planted nose down in the ground.
Yeah.
But people paint, people bring their paint or they buy their paint. In places, Bob, the layer of paint is like this thick.
Oh,
Yeah.
So if you didn't know you were looking at an old Cadillac, you might not know you were looking at an old Cadillac. But that kind of stuff, like you get a pang. I do anyway. And that's not like my era. That's not the nostalgia that I have. But I get a pang when I'm on old Route 66 and we're eating breakfast somewhere, or we're going to one of these old 66 tourist traps, because that's the America of my grandparents.
Right.
That's their America. And
Right.
it's a chance to time travel. So we stay every time we go through Cortez, Colorado, where we have listeners. Hey, Cortez, there's a place called the Retro Inn, and it's an old 1950s motel. And the people who bought it have painstakingly restored it to ring-a-ding-ding splendor. It is
Right.
absolutely restored.
I love
So
that.
you would love it. The last time we stayed there, we were in the Orange James Dean room. And so Kevin called me from the road and he said, I think I'm going to stop in Cortez for the night. Will you do me a favor and get me a room at the old Retro Inn? So I got him a room, and about an hour later, he texted me a picture of the room he was in. What are the odds he was in the Orange James Dean room? But everything about, like, how little motels and hotels have like a breakfast area?
Right.
This one built like a 1950s diner, and that's their breakfast area.
Love it.
And
A guy,
it's so cool.
was just on. He's going off of my feed right now. I think his name was Steve Held, and Steve drove Route 66, and in his car he had the theme from the television show Route 66, which was done by, I think, Nelson Riddle. It is one of the greatest instrumentals for travel that you will ever hear in your life, and I know most of the people are too young to know what it sounds like. But if you can, take a few minutes when we're done here tonight and pull up Nelson Riddle, Route 66. It was the opening theme for the TV show that was on, I think, ABC a million years ago. And it's like, it's nothing but motion. And Steve had that on his car driving on Route 66.
I mean,
What
it's
an
like
experience.
it's an experience, and you will, if you get on the old Route 66, you'll have an opportunity to stay and eat at some very, very kind of like unique places.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you have to love a road trip. I mean, you have to think about it. We drive back and forth across the USA twice a year.
Right.
So, I mean, you really, really have to enjoy being in the car to do it. And if you do it, definitely when you go through Oklahoma, go to the National Cowboy Museum. The
I want to
National
do that.
Cowboy Museum is so awesome.
And listen to the song Get Your Kicks on Route 66. It was written by Bobby Troop during my parents' era. It's been recorded by Nat King Cole, the Rolling Stones, and numerous other artists. And it names almost all of the towns that Sheri was talking about. We're just about out of time, and I'm starving to death.
I do want to shout out before we run out of time that the Allman Brothers, the great Dickie Betts, passed away today. I think he was the same age as my mom, which blew my mind because I guess I didn't connect like my mom's youth with the Allman Brothers. But yes, we lost one of our fine, great American rock and roll musicians today in Dickie Betts. So for all you Allman Brothers fans out there,
That red
we're
guitar.
well aware. And tomorrow on the regular Bob Sheri show, not only do we have the People's Movie Critic review and tell them what you're going to review, Lamar,
Spaceman.
starring.
Oh my God. Do I have to say it? I
Say
mean,
it. Say his name. Say it.
I don't want to say it.
Say it.
I don't want to say it.
Say it.
I don't want to say
Rhymes with Madam Handler. Go ahead and say it.
Oh God. God, you're killing me. You say it, Sheri. I don't want to say it.
Spaceman, starring Adam Sandler and a giant talking spider on Netflix, and the actor Gary Sinise. Remember Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump?
Yes. Cannot wait.
Gary Sinise is going to join us on the show tomorrow too. So we got a big old Friday plan for you, and we need to let Bob go eat. So cheers, everybody.
What are you eating? Right quick. What are you eating, Bob? What are you eating?
Thank you for joining
I
us.
don't eat very much meat, but I bought a couple of steaks, and Mary's out back cooking them on the grill as we speak.
Awesome. Good.
Well, you enjoy that. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks for joining.
We'll be back next week for another happy hour. Thanks for bearing with us while we took a little bit of time off. We wanted to give Heather a chance to catch up, and Max desperately needed a break. And of course, I was out visiting my mom and having her tell my husband that, Kevin, honey, I can see your junk. So we're very glad to be back home. Cheers, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Cheers.
Good night.